Let's take a journey back to our childhood. Think back on all the nostalgic games and activities that you enjoyed when you were little. Hide and seek, tag, marbles. I'm sure there's something that came to your mind. For me, it was throwing pebbles into water ponds. I know it sounds dull and completely frivolous, but I promise I won't be talking about game rules for the next 10 minutes. So let's cut to the chase. It all started with this game with my friends, where it is a competition to see who can throw the farthest and make the biggest ripple in the neighborhood's pond with a pebble. What's weird is that whenever I reminisce about this pond that holds precious memories of my childhood, I can't recall the exact location of it, nor do I find myself able to remember whether it has a name, whether the water was clear or murky. What I do think back on is the small waves that always appeared on the surface of that unknown water. The occurrence of these ripples slowly spread out from just a central, condensed point to the repetitive swirling that seemed serene, yet breaking apart the undisturbed surface. Ripples. I am always mesmerized by the mere idea of ripples. It is simply impossible to not wonder about the everlasting, unique patterns all created by a single pebble. Talking about pebbles, the method of throwing them into the water is an important aspect of this game, as it determines the way the ripple would look. A light toss at a low angle will result in smooth and uniform waves. Meanwhile, a hard throw with a straight angle brings out large, rapid ripples with great disturbance of the water surface. The opposite methods of the throwing of rocks create an antonymic contrast, however, not fundamentally contradictory. On the contrary, the seemingly complementary opposites create the natural state of coexistence. Today, I'll be talking about the power of strategic thinking, leading to our brain's ability to turn something, like the universally disapproved habit of, say, procrastination, into an approach that we could use to benefit us. As students, we get lectures about this topic, about all the drawbacks procrastination will bring us. It's almost described as if we would instantly succeed if this deadly habit is avoided. The phrase, "don't procrastinate," became some sort of a motto, somewhat like a saying that acts as a constant reminder of the prosperity it will bring to your life if you just follow the rules. Don't procrastinate, don't be lazy, be proactive, do your work. Now, there has to be some sort of research or data supporting all the lectures teachers and parents keep feeding us, right? Well, Dr. Ralph Rybak, former professor of Harvard Medical School, stated that our brain releases the feel-good neurotransmitter dopamine once accomplishing something, flooding our brains with an immense satisfactory feeling. This process of the release of the happy hormone could then be used as a strategy to manipulate the brain into repeating the associated behavior to reach the previous level of joy. On the surface, procrastination and productivity belong on two opposite ends of the spectrum, existing in a state of dichotomy. Now, what if I tell you that they are interconnected, much like the Chinese philosophies yin and yang, representing opposite forces working together to create balance? So, how does that work? Research done by the University of New South Wales shows that once the brain starts to feel unpleasant sensations from a task, the limbic system, the part of the brain responsible for behavior and emotion, starts the process of mood repair as the dopamine level dips lower than usual. In other words, the brain will manipulate you to do a more pleasurable task, such as watching TV instead of finishing off work. However, the most important part of this process that needs to be understood is that by procrastinating and doing something more fun would provide your brain with a hit of dopamine, controlling your mood to be happier. So that means that procrastination could actually bring you happiness and satisfaction, just like being productive would. Think about it this way. Imagine yourself as a student enjoying winter break, meeting up with friends, watching your favorite show, sleeping 15 hours a day, having the absolute best time of your life when you remembered that there is a math project due the day after school returns. Now you start a silent calculation. You could either do a bit of work every weekend, which will guarantee you to finish the project on time, or you could save up all the work until the last weekend of break and truly relax and enjoy 3 weeks' worth of free time. Now, if you decide to work every weekend, you might feel reluctant. I mean, it's winter break. No one wants to do work. The reluctance of doing the work and having to open the project every week, in essence sending small dopamine hits to your body, would only lead to loss of productivity and less motivation, as your body systems are not ready to fight or flight. This is ironic, really, as the whole purpose of doing the work every weekend was to be productive in the first place. On the other hand, by saving up the work until the last weekend will lead to increased happiness over the whole break, due to the beforehand mentioned release of a larger hit of dopamine, and would also lead to enhanced productivity with the higher dopamine level. This might mean better concentration and enhanced quality of the final product. Which brings us back to the previously mentioned concept of the opposites not being fundamentally contradictory. In this case, the coexistence of procrastination and productivity working together to create a state of balance. It works much like caffeine, as studies show that it improves mood. However, overconsumption could cause anxiety and discomfort. Procrastination works pretty much the same way. Too much will hurt future performances, while a smaller amount is beneficial. What I want you all to take away is that everything depends on how you look at the problem. What's most important is to think of the final purpose. In the example's case, working bit by bit could be used as a strategy for the purpose of making sure not much work would be built for the last minute. However, if the final purpose is changed to have enhanced productivity and built up motivation, then strategic procrastination could probably work well. In other words, it's not about what pebble you throw, it is about the method of throwing it to be just right. Now it's time to remember the ripples and pebbles. I mentioned that the most important part of the game was to consider the correct method of tossing the rock. But why would it be so important? After all, wouldn't ripples always be created, no matter how we toss the pebbles into the water? As Newton's third law of motion states, that for every action in nature, there is an equal and opposite reaction, meaning that it doesn't take much to make a ripple. Any force acted upon the water would. What matters, though, is a thoughtfully planned angle of tossing the pebble, which will result in the way we desire the ripples to look like. Later on, I understood that the pebbles are symbolic of those decisions we make, the angle of throwing being the different forms of those choices. The ripples would naturally represent the effects of those different decisions. The patterns of them, however, are the outcomes of the carefully planned strategies that clearly outline the final purpose. Everything could be done by thinking strategically, such as turning something like the universally disapproved habit of procrastination into a strategy that could be used for beneficial reasons. In the end, it all connects back to that seemingly pointless childhood game. It's all about the nominal decisions when choosing the correct method of throwing. It's all about proper consideration in the plan. A strategy that reflects the final conclusion that no matter what you choose to do, it is always about the way you do it, the specific method you chose to approach something. The challenge for us as humans is to truly understand the capabilities of our brains, to learn that we hold the power to control the complexity of our minds and use it to our advantage. Because one day, if everyone realizes the capacities of our own decision-making, the strength of our own choices, the complexity of our own minds, then the human race would reach all of our desired outcomes and attain everything that we have ever aspired to. Thank you.